Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. So we are reading, hopefully we're reading today, yes, okay. We're reading today from first canto of the Bhagavatam, chapter 19, which is Bhishma's, Bhishma what? What about Bhishma? What's going to happen today? Does anybody know? Know, it's ninth chapter, right? Yeah, sorry. 1-9. Yeah, and we're doing, passing away Bhishma. Hold on, I'm getting there. 9th, passing away of Bhishma Dev in the presence of Lord Sri Krishna. How auspicious is that? So, okay, anyway, first we'll do this part. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritya. Naram Chaiva Narottamam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam. Todayam Udirayat. Nasta Prayeshu Abhadreshu. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavati Uttama Shloke. Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Wouldn't say that translation together? Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and Srila Prabhupada, the translator and commentator. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, and by rendering service unto the pure devotees, all that troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, whose praise through transcendental songs is established as an irrevocable fact. Omagina timidandasya jananjana salakaya chaksu umilitam jaina tasmai shri gurave namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master very kindly forced open my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I therefore am totally indebted to him and beg for service life after life. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So, in our continuing study of Srimad Bhagavatam, this chapter 9 depicts Bhishma Dev's mood and the, of when he was passing away and the circumstances. Can you give me a summary of how we got to here? What's happening now? Those are always the first questions are always the hardest. What happened yesterday? Oh, let's see. And then, what led up to this? Oh, that's really hard. Okay. Okay. Yes, Steve. God bless you. Krishna. That's going, yes, okay. So here we are. Battle of Kurukshetra. That was chapter 8, yeah. Okay, so here the scene, setting a general scene, because there's lots of different activities that happen. The general scene is Battle of Kurukshetra took place. In the Battle of Kurukshetra, there were so many skirmishes, so many different difficulties that had to happen. Arjuna had to pass over and test and this and that. At one point, because Bhishma, the grandfather, he was the general. He was the general, the teacher of all the soldiers. And particularly he was Arjuna's grandfather. So that was one of Arjuna's dilemma in the beginning of the when he came between the two armies. How am I going to fight with my grandfather, my teachers, all of these people that I'm indebted to? They taught me everything. I'm indebted to them through different familial ties, etc., etc. And do you happen to recall when the battle very first started, how did Arjuna commence the battle? Do you remember that part? Yes? Is that a, yes, I remember?
He offered his respects to them by, of course, he had his dilemma with Krishna.
Bunny, no, here's the microphone, so our kitchen crew who are working very hard. Thank you in there. They can hear too.
So, of course, there was the speaking of Bhagavad Gita, and then also Arjuna offered respects to his elders, Dronacharya, Bhishma, etc., by offering arrows at their feet.
By offering arrows at their feet. That was his sign of respect, because that was their relationship. He was their Bhishma, well, not directly, but Drona directly was his military teacher, but also Bhishma was such a formidable warrior. So how do you offer respect? Flowers? No, you offer respect in a fitting way. By shooting that arrow at Bhishma's feet to offer his respects, he got Bhishma Dev's blessings. He got his blessings. Lesson, a very important lesson to understand. That, we think that we accomplish things by our endeavors. And yes, one has to make their endeavor, but we actually accomplish things by blessings. So by asking for blessings, then those good wishes, they're potent. They have a potency. So anyway, circumstantially, blah, 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 all the details of the battle. And then while Bhishma is fighting with Arjuna shoots him, and shoots him once and shoots twice. He shoots him so full of arrows that he's just like a pin cushion, an arrow cushion. And when he topples over, he doesn't even hit the ground. It's the arrows that hit the ground and support him up. Support him. Not really is the correct word, but I don't know which word to use. They keep his body off the ground because the arrows the force of Arjuna's arrows pierced his body so severely that, it came out the other side while it still stayed in. Anyway, so there he is on his bed of arrows. But because of his blessing from his father, I won't go into all the details. Because of a previous blessing from his father, he could choose his time of death. He didn't have to die until he chose to die. So he didn't choose to die right then. He kept himself alive through his mystic potency. And after so Bhishma Dev, I don't remember the detail of when Bhishma was shot, the day, but anyway, he wasn't shot on the last day. He was shot somewhere before that. And so, but he kept himself alive till the whole battle was over and the sun's course started to head north, because that was the auspicious time for yogis to pass away. And then he chose. Okay, so battle was over. Yudhisthira's now, and Yudhisthira's victorious. Yudhisthira's side, the Pandavas are victorious. And it's now time for Yudhisthira to take up governance of the kingdom, what's left of the kingdom, even though 640 million people were just killed. So whoever is left, it's time for Yudhisthira to rule over the kingdom and try to put the kingdom, back in a functioning state. And Yudhisthira himself is so overcome with grief and lamentation and doubts about his own actions and how he felt so responsible. It's not that he just, 640 million people died and Haribol, I'm just going to take the throne and just go on like nothing happened. No, he felt so responsible, not just for the death of those soldiers, but of all their families that are now suffering, and struggling to now maintain their family without the support of the husband, not the father's not there for the children, et cetera, that he didn't want to take it up. And that upset Bhima so much. We've come to this place, this position, after going through all this trial and tribulation, and now we've finally gotten victory and you don't want to take it up? Like, they're all shocked. They're all just, so they try to convince him by logical argument. Well, we did this, and then Krishna also speaks to Yudhisthira to try to assuage his doubts and fears and misapprehensions. And Vyasadeva, and this great sage and that great sage, all come to Yudhisthira to try to get him to accept the responsibility of governing the kingdom. And he's not convinced. And this is, we're going to come to this, our verse 16 that we're going to stress on, is the plan of the Lord. It's so difficult to understand the plan of the Lord because it's his plan is the overall encompassing plan for the good of everybody. And our plan is maybe for my own good and maybe one or two other people, or maybe a few other people, or if I'm really a benevolent person, maybe a group of people. But Krishna's plan is the whole, and somehow or other, the intricacies and the actions and interaction of all of that, the whole, anyway. So Krishna's speaking to Yudhisthira, trying to convince him, but as a supreme controller who's sitting in the heart of all living entities, including Yudhisthira, he's not letting him get convinced because his plan, he wants to glorify Bhishma Dev. Because the Acharyas explain there's a little shadow of doubt on Bhishma Dev's character. Because of him being present in that assembly when Draupadi was being insulted and him not speaking up, there's a question in your mind. Why didn't he speak up? And there's explanation of this and that and this and that. But there's like this shadow, little doubt. He's a Mahajan and he didn't speak up at this great insult. So Krishna, wanting to erase any traces of the validity or the strength of Bhishma's love for Krishna, has arranged for Yudhisthira to be able to speak to him at this particular time. That's our background story. And now we'll start reading a few of the verses, okay? And we can go around the room however you'd like to do that. Oh, best of the starters. Thanks.
Siddha Goswami said, being afraid for having killed so many subjects on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Maharaj Yudhisthira went to the scene of the massacre. There, Bhishma Dev was lying on a bed of arrows about to pass away.
At that time, all his brothers followed him on beautiful chariots drawn by first-class horses decorated with gold ornaments. With them were Vyas and rishis like Domya, the learned priests of the Pandavas, and others.
O sage amongst the Brahmins, Lord Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, also followed, seated on a chariot with Arjuna. Thus, King Yudhisthira appeared very aristocratic, like Kuvera, surrounded by his companions, the Guhyas.
Guyakas. Yes. Yeah, sure.
Seeing him, Bhishma, lying on the ground like a demigod fallen from the sky, the Pandava king Yudhisthira down before him.
Just to see the chief of the descendants of King Bharata, Bhishma, all the great souls in the universe, namely the rishis amongst the demigods, brahmanas, and kings, all situated in the quality of goodness, were assembled there.
That's an interesting point, isn't it? That everyone, somehow or other, through the mystic transcend vibration, they understood Bhishma's passing away now. And they came from different parts of the country. That's kind of understandable, or a tad more easy to understand. They also came from different parts of the universe, a little more, beyond our conception of, getting in a car and going somewhere. But anyway, they all came to pay respects.
All the sages like Parvatamani, Narada, Dhaumya, Vyasa, the incarnation of God, Brihadashva, Bharadwaj, and Parshuram and disciples, Vasishtha, Indra Pramada, Trita, Gritsamada, Asita, Kakshivan, Gautama, Atri, Kaushika, and Sudarshan were present.
And many others, like Sukadev Goswami and other purified souls, Kashyapa and Angirasa and others, all accompanied by their respective disciples, arrived there.
That's an amazing group of people, isn't it?
Yes.
You know, Sukadev Goswami, Narada, Vyas, this one, that one, demigods, etc., etc. And still Yudhisthira gets to hear from Bhishma. Okay, Govinda?
Bhishma Dev, who was the best among the 8 Vasus, received and welcomed all the great and powerful rishis who were assembled there, for he knew perfectly all the religious principles according to time and place.
Okay, another comment. So there he is, about to die. It's not an easy time. You know, it's not an easy time. What to speak of being about to die because your body's pierced through arrows. It's not that he didn't feel anything. He felt it. He had a body. He felt it. But his consciousness was so powerful and so fixed on the Lord, he could transcend all the distractions of the bodily pain. That's one class, one category of distraction at the time of death, is the pain of it all. The other category is the mind. The mind's running all over the place, trying to be fixed on whatever it wants to be, you know, whatever it wants to be fixed on. Hopefully that's Krishna's lotus feet or the spiritual master's lotus feet. But there's pain, there's this, there's that, there's, you know, all of this happening. You're on a bed of arrow. And here comes all of these very exalted personality. And what was just explained? Bhishma Dev welcomes them all personally. Personally. He acknowledges them all personally and gives them some sweet words of welcome. Hare Krishna. Yes, Vanina, can we get your mic back? A mic back. Yeah.
Also, in that discussion, Bhishma Dev acknowledges this when they come to actually to see him. He acknowledges that his mind is very clouded at the time, and Krishna gives him an actual boon such that his mind becomes very clear. And there's a very amazing statement that later that comes up. I hope I'm not stealing any part of the class.
No, that's okay.
Where Bhishma Dev, in terms of being able to speak, he says, I see past, present, and future just as clearly as I see a fruit held in the palm of my hand.
And Satchidananda Maharaj tells an interesting story that as Bhishma Dev is about to speak, all of a sudden there's some laughter, but not funny laughter, sarcastic laughter in the air. You know, very somber moment. And there's ha, ha, ha. Now he's going to speak on morality and religious principles. Where was that speech when I was being insulted? That was Draupadi. This is according to Satchidananda Maharaj. Okay, he said Draupadi spoke up like that, and Bhishma Dev acknowledged. He said, when that situation occurred, I was sheltered by Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra, and therefore I was eating food in their house, and I became contaminated by that association. But now, due to the piercing of Arjuna's arrows, all my blood has left, and I've become purified of that contamination. Haribol. Just a little interesting fact. Okay, go on.
Lord Shri Krishna is situated in everyone's heart, yet he manifests his transcendental form by his internal potency. This very Lord was sitting before Bhishma Dev, and since Bhishma Dev knew of his glories, he worshipped him duly.
The sons of Maharaj Pandu were sitting silently nearby. Overtaken with affection for their dying grandfather, seeing this, Bhishma Dev congratulated them with feeling. There were tears of ecstasy in his eyes, for he was overwhelmed by love and affection.
Oh, what terrible sufferings and what terrible justices. I'm sorry. Bhishma Dev said, "Oh, what terrible sufferings and what terrible injustices you good souls suffer for being the sons of religion personified. You did not deserve to remain alive under those tribulations, yet you were protected by the Brahmanas, God, and religion."
As far As far as my daughter-in-law Kunti is concerned, upon the great General Pandu's death, she became a widow with many children, and therefore she suffered greatly. And when you were grown up, she suffered a great deal also because of your actions. In my opinion, this is all due to inevitable time, under whose control everyone and every planet is carried, just as the clouds are carried by the wind.
Oh, how wonderful is the influence of inevitable time. It is irreversible. Otherwise, how can there be reverses in the presence of King Yudhishthir, the son of the demigod, controlling religion? Bhima, the great fighter with a club, the great bowman Arjuna with his mighty weapon Gandiva, and above all, the Lord, the direct well-wisher of the Pandavas.
O King, no one can know the plan of the Lord, Sri Krishna. Even though great philosophers inquire exhaustively, they are bewildered. May I make a comment?
Yes, please.
I am really taken by this being able to have pain, probably exquisite pain in the body, but not suffering. It's remarkable.
Yeah.
It shows his level of, and now he's consoling the Pandavas.
For what they've done.
Hare
Yes,
Krishna.
Vandana. You need a microphone just for Vandana. Oh, he's not. Okay, sorry, excuse me.
Also, from the Bhagavatam, I was just once again confirming it. You don't get the sense of the time that Bhishma Dev was there. By calculation, it was 56 days
Yeah.
that he was lying on the bed of error, and they were hearing from him every day. And that is a great science, particularly of Rajadharma. We're hoping to get something published in this regard. Yeah.
Yeah, quite sometimes, yes. And the last verse for today is this 17.
Best among the descendants of Bharata, Yudhishthir, I maintain, therefore, that all this is within the plan of the Lord. Accepting the inconceivable plan of the Lord, you must follow it. You are now the appointed administrative head, and my Lord, you should now take care of those subjects who are now rendered helpless.
So that's the extent of our verses to cover for today, and we're going to focus on text 16, which we just read, about the inconceivable plan of the Lord. Okay. Nahi yasya karichid rajan. Nahi yasya karichid rajan. Kumam veda vidhitsitam. Kumam veda vidhitsitam. Yad Vijinyasya Yukta, sorry. Yad Vijinyasya Yukta. Thank you, you did it much better than me, thank you. Muyanti Kavayopihi. Muyanti Kavayopihi. Sometimes I think when I say the Sanskrit, there must be people really snickering up there. Okay. Nahyasya karichid rajan. Kumam veda viditsitam. Yad vijigyasaya yukta. Muyanti kavayopihi. Please chant. Nahi asya karichit rajan umam veda viditsitam yad vijnasaya yukta muyanti kavayopihi
Nahyasya karichid rajan
Nahyasya karichit rajan
man veda vidhitsitam
umam veda viditsitam
vijnasaya yukta
yad vijnasaya yukta
yanti kavayopihi
muyanti kavayopihi. One more. Nahyasya karichit rajan Pumam Veda Viditsitam Yadvikyasaya Yukta Muyanti Kavayopihi. Na, never. He, certainly. Asya, his. Karichit, whatsoever. Rajan, O king. Puman, anyone. Veda, knows. Vititsitam, plan. Yat, which. Vijigyasaya, with exhaustive inquiries. Yukta, being engaged. Muyanti, bewildered. Kavaya, great philosophers. Api, even. He, certainly. O king, no one can know the plan of the Lord, Sri Krishna. Even though great philosophers inquire exhaustively, they are bewildered. Let's say it together. O king, no one can know the plan of the Lord, Sri Krishna. Even though great philosophers inquire exhaustively, they are bewildered. Does somebody want to read the purport? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
The bewilderment of Maharaj Yudhishthir over his past sinful acts and the resultant sufferings, etc., is completely negated by the great authority Bhishma, one of the 12 authorized persons.
Okay, what does that mean? What does that mean? Yes, Prabhu. And can you remind me your name? You probably reminded me once before, but I can't remember.
Rasika Shiromani does.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Rasika Shiramani.
Thank you. Hare Krishna, my obeisances. He's one of the 12 Mahajans, so this is 12 personalities that are able to speak on the science of Godhead
Yudhishthir's
perfectly.
the Mahajan, or who's the Mahajan?
Bhishma Dev.
Okay, just clarifying things.
Yeah. And there are others there, actually.
Yeah.
Narada and so forth.
Yeah, Narada, Sukadeva, we heard the list. They're all there, and he's clarifying it. But what does it mean particularly about Maharaj Yudhishthir's past sinful activities? What is that phrase part? The bewilderment of Maharaj Yudhishthir over his past sinful acts and the resulting sufferings is completely negated by the great authority. Yes, Govindaji?
I think Maharaj Yudhishthir was feeling morose because he had killed, because of his name, there was a lot of killing, and so he felt like he has a lot of karma, sin, and so he was bewildered in that sense.
Yeah. And it also it's implying that he's thinking, because of my past sinful activities, aside from this war, I'm implicated in this war to kill more. That's one of the natures, one of the understanding of karma is that it's a web. It's not just one little thready line that you can untangle and straighten out, quote unquote. It's a web of action, reaction. Okay, so it's completely negated. Let's see how he does that.
Bhishma wanted to impress upon Maharaj Yudhishthir that since time immemorial, no one, including such demigods as Shiva and Brahma, could ascertain the real plan of the Lord. So what can we understand about it? It is useless also to inquire about it.
How does that make you feel? It's useless also to inquire about it. Does it make you feel? How does it make you feel? What emotion does that evoke? Useless? Okay, it's true. What else? Relief. Interesting. Okay, thank you. Helpless, yeah. A whole flood of different emotions, isn't it there? You know, relief and bewilderment also. No, I mean, it's like bewildering. It's useless to inquire about it, but you think, but I want to know. But what's the whole point of this section in this particular verse is you're never going to know because it's not just you. It's Krishna's plan, and we're little spickly sparks of that plan, just insignificant parts of that plan. We have our own quote unquote destiny from our own actions, reactions, but we're in a community. We're in a nation. We're on the earth planet at the same time, and so somehow or other, it's all intertwining. It's not by chance this just happened or that just happened or that. Different things just happen. Control myself from not saying specific things, but it's not by chance. It's cumulative effect. It's individual effect. It's there. Okay, a little bit more, please, until I interrupt you again. Haha.
Even the exhaustive philosophical inquiries of sages cannot ascertain the plan of the Lord. The best policy is simply to abide by the orders of the Lord without argument.
Now, how does that make you feel? Simply abide by the orders of the Lord. Without question? Where's free will? Okay, what? A little feedback on that? Let's read that sentence. Can you read that sentence again?
The best policy is to abide by the orders of the Lord without argument.
How are you going to do that, Govinda?
Argument and question. Argument and question.
You want to argue about that and question that? Is that what you're saying? Am I misunderstanding?
Two different things, like arguing.
Oh, and okay, thank you. Okay, all right. Did you have something that you wanted to say? Or am I?
Yeah, without argument, it kind of reminds me of it's not blind faith because there's so much subjective confirmation in this process. So it's not blind faith of do as the Bible says, or I don't know. Sorry.
No, but that's a very good point. It's not blind faith. The point that what I'm trying to pull out is one simply has to abide by the orders of the Lord. So what does that infer? Infers that we need to know what the orders of the Lord are. We need to endeavor in that way to know how to act. And that's the whole framework of this circumstance. Just take the example of Bhishma lying on the bed of arrows, and all the people are coming to see him, and he's greeting them all because that's proper etiquette. Even he's in that distressed condition. He's understanding, and he's offering respects to the different personalities for the contribution they've given to him and to society, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And he's offering them respects and encouragement. It's included in some of the orders or instructions. Orders is a pretty, I'll say, unpalatable word. Follow my order, Prabhu. I mean, it's not like that. But anyway, it's those instructions of the Lord, they're for the benefit of all of us. Okay, let me know if you think of other things you want to comment on that. Okay, do you get the mic back? Does she get her mic back for continuing on? One mic short. This next sentence is also very important. Go ahead.
The sufferings of the Pandavas were never due to their past deeds. The Lord had to execute the plan of establishing the kingdom of virtue, and therefore his own devotees suffered temporarily in order to establish the conquest of virtue.
Okay, that's an interesting concept there too. That this is what the Lord does. He comes, he manifests inside his own creation. He manifests within the material world to enact different pastimes and activities in order to attract conditioned souls who have turned their face away from the Lord, to attract them to him and his activities and maybe his devotees or whatever, so that they can rectify their misunderstanding of who they are and what's going to make them happy. So when we look at these, and when we look at some of these pastimes and activities, especially the Pandavas, their suffering, it wasn't just minimal. It was huge. It was huge throughout their whole life. Their father died at a young age, and they went to the palace of their brother, uncle, and it was huge. And there they are playing as quote unquote cousin brothers with the other 100 cousins, and the other 100 cousins are always trying to kill them or poison them or this or that and kill their mother too, and this, et cetera, ad practically infinitum, the different intricacies of political affairs that went on. And so we might look at that and say, but if they're devotees of Krishna, why are they suffering? And there might be a doubt. Prabhupada says this is why people don't, in general, is a general statement, people don't really worship Krishna as much as they worship this God or that person or that personality, because by worshiping this God who is very easily pleased, Lord Shiva or Durga, whatever, they're getting their material desires fulfilled, but they're not getting ultimate happiness. And they're not getting extrication from this material world with the web of entanglement of fruitive activities. So if somebody gets elevation to the heavenly planets, that's a great boon, but it doesn't end their suffering. Jai Shishi Gornitai, have a nice breakfast. They're not getting end of their suffering. When that boon, or when their time, their designated time in the heavenly planets with long life, beautiful this, and high intelligence, so much opulence, when it's up, it's up. They have to come down again and accrue more good karma or pious deeds so that they can, quote unquote, be happy in this material world, in a place where it's not possible to be happy permanently. That's the thing. Where does that desire to be happy in the material world come from? Because it comes from the soul. The soul's constitutional position is happiness. Even though it might be far away right now, but still it is happiness, and that's why we're searching for it. And under a miscalculation of what's going to bring me happiness, we're acting in different ways. But none of those materialistic ways are going to bring us happiness. They might bring us a Band-Aid temporary relief of this or that, but not real happiness. And unfortunately, it takes a lot to get that through our thick heads. It takes a lot to be convinced of that. And what was Srila Prabhupada's great potency? Mystic power, this, that. His potency was, he was totally convinced of that. He was totally convinced. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I'm his servant. My spiritual master asked me to do this. This is the way of real happiness. And therefore he could convince others. Apparently, so easily, but by his great level of purity. And here we are making our attempt. And 50 years later, one might look and say, well, am I really convinced that I'm a servant of Krishna? Yeah, I'm convinced. But I also have so many other distractions and, side plans. Okay, a little bit more, unless someone else wants to make a comment at this particular point. Yes, Govinda, yeah, thank you. I'm sorry. I did see your hand and then I forgot it.
One could have a doubt that just to get his plan, Krishna made his devotees suffer. One could have this doubt, just because he wants to do something, he's going to make his devotees suffer. And I was thinking, how do we relate that to our own lives? You know, Krishna might make us suffer just to achieve something, but what happens in the internal world of a devotee because, you know, the Pandavas, even though externally there was a lot of pain and things, but what was happening internally in regard to their connection with Krishna? Was it pain, or was it they were experiencing, you know, remembrance or separation, or what was going on internally?
Rasika Shiromoni wants to add to that comment, I think, right?
Yeah, we can see in the prayers of Queen Kunti how they experienced it, and the consciousness of a pure devotee understands that these inconveniences and material pains and so forth that come actually are there as the special mercy of the Lord. And she even prayed, I pray that these calamities will happen again and again, because when
It's microphone day, microphone challenge day. It's just a comment before I forget it. Here it is. And everybody works really hard to keep the whole system running. You know, the microphones of this, the internet of that. And there's always a difficulty. Okay, what's the plan of the Lord? Something's back in. It's not going to work? We're having.
It seems like it's 2 hours. Connecting the same microphone, so that's resonance. Let's see if I can remember.
Sorry. I'm totally in the same category. That's why I butt in ahead of you and said, before I forget, sorry.
So
Kunti.
Yes, so Kunti understood that these were expressions of the Lord's transcendental mercy towards the Pandavas, and they actually experienced deeper and deeper association with Krishna. And so she embraced those things, because without them, she would probably want to enjoy on the material level rather than, so, you know, it's like a watermelon seed. When you press on a watermelon seed, what happens? It goes. So the material pressures for a devotee drive them into the further up and higher into the heart of Krishna.
Thank you for that example. It got me thinking. Okay, yeah, and this is, you know, we can theorize it, we can read about it, we can hear about it and say, oh yeah, this is the Krishna's plan to bring us closer to him. But we'll get plenty of opportunity to practice that also in different ways and shapes and forms. Some more severely than others, you know, the tests, greater tests, some lesser tests. But the point is, or one of the points, you can never say the point. One of the points is to remember who we really are and what's really going to bring us happiness. Not a superficial, temporary happiness. Yes. You don't have a mic, and you're the mic controller.
Advaita Prabhu commented, I think in the point what Govinda was asking about internal what was happening. He said, when there is bhakti, so-called suffering is transformed into very different, it's like a greatest experience of joy. It's like a mother doing something impossible for a child. Like she's not necessarily suffering when she's caring for the child, and she has to forget her hunger or her own comforts.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for that comment, Prabhu. Yeah, it transforms. And then that was even a previous comment that Rasika Shiromoni had mentioned about something, but it was his previous comment on Bhishma. And I forgot it as I started to say it. It's never going to happen to you. You guys are never going to forget things like that. But anyway, Haribol.
You have something to look forward to.
Yeah, transformative. It brings it to a higher level. In other words, there might be suffering, there might be pain. That was your comment. Thank you, Krishna. There might be pain and suffering on one level, but it's not that suffering of pain. It brings you to a different level. Thank you.
One thing in that, I appreciate that discussion. The gateway to this is the adherence to duty. That this, what we're discussing here, is not achieved just by wishful thinking, etc. And we see this because, just like using the example of Arjuna, in the battle when he's fighting, he's 100 and plus whatever, just completely absorbed in that duty. Mm-hmm. And these were the arguments also that were given prior to Bhishma Dev speaking by everyone, Krishna included, Vyasadeva, etc. This adherence to duty, and this is one of the things that comes out in this particular section, mm-hmm. of the importance of that. And this is also commented upon about the great acharyas as well. And as far as it's mentioned, these orders of the Lord also gives us a means of living within this world. And that works, and the other things do not work. But so this adherence to duty is it's something that I'm just only beginning to think about and appreciate somewhat.
Good point. That adherence to duty, and that goes along with what we read in the somewhere in the very beginning, about how one has to, in order to follow the orders of the Lord, one has to learn to follow the orders of the Lord to achieve real happiness. That's adherence to duty. Arjuna's argument in the beginning of the Gita was, I think I don't want to fight. Krishna says, you think by not doing your duty you're going to get happiness, but you're going to get exactly the opposite. And so again, and you brought it around to our level of a sadhaka, an aspiring devotee. So what's our duty? Is our duty to learn martial arts? Not necessarily, but our duty is what? The 4 regulative principles, chanting the minimum 16 rounds, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, explaining Srimad Bhagavatam. That's our duty. So yes, the car might have just crashed and you broke your leg, and it might be really hard to chant your rounds, but you make your endeavor. Yes, you might have just lost your job and now you're just in so many, your mind's in a turmoil, but you stick to those principles. Yes, there might be so many challenges in life, and yes, some days it might be easier and more enlivening to chant, and some days it might be really hard to chant and not so enlivening, but we stick to our vows. And even though, if you just say, follow the 4 regulative principles and chant 16 rounds a day, and that's all you have to do, and you go back to God, it sounds really easy. It will play out in a way that it'll be like the fire of purification. But that fire of purification, if followed according to the orders of the Lord, our favorite O word, the orders of the Lord, will bring about our ultimate happiness. And listening to the oscillation and acceptance and rejections of the mind, I feel like it, I don't feel like it, he was nice to me, she was mean to me, not here. She was mean to me, this and that, whatever, therefore I'm going to blah, 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 blah. No, I'm going to stick to the process and keep on trying. And in fact, that's one thing that's been going through my mind lately. I just got to keep trying. I'm not expert at this, I'm not expert at that, and that, but let's just keep trying. And that endeavor alone will please Krishna. We have a little bit more to go, right? So let's finish that.
Bhishma Dev was certainly satisfied by seeing the triumph of virtue, and he was glad to see King Yudhishthira on the throne, although he himself fought against him. Even a great fighter like Bhishma could not win the battle of Kurukshetra because the Lord wanted to show that vice cannot conquer virtue, regardless of who tries to execute it. Bhishma Dev was a great devotee of the Lord, but he chose to fight against the Pandavas by the will of the Lord because the Lord wanted to show that a fighter like Bhishma cannot win on the wrong side.
Interesting, no? All these little tidbits, they're so... Each sentence practically is full of, you could pull it out and unfluff it for months and months. Okay, what are your impressions on that last little section? Any feedback from that last little section? Even a great fighter could not win the battle of Kurukshetra because the Lord wanted to show that vice cannot conquer virtue. Now, how does that make you feel in this day and age? Do you think that virtue's winning? Not yet. It doesn't seem like it. But we're not actually even seeing the full effect of this transcendental virtuous act of distributing prasadam and chanting Hare Krishna, even in small groups. This is a large group considering a lot, some places, but even small little, all the different people who've come here and gone home chanting Hare Krishna on their way home, I can't get that thing out of my mind. Hare Krishna, 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 we're not seeing the full effect of it just yet because that transcendental potency has such an effect that it can change the whole course of that person's karmic sojourn to end it. Anyway, but again, in trying to analyze what the plan of the Lord is, one of the plans of the Lord was that he wanted to show that even if you're a great personality, if you're on the wrong side, you're not going to win in the ultimate victory. Any other little quick comments, because I'm already over time? Yes, Prabhu, and then Govinda.
Really briefly, that the nice thing is that the Lord is into, once we are sincerely determined in our bhakti yoga, no matter what our maturity level is, the Lord is intimately knowledgeable and involved.
Yeah.
So he knows exactly what level of curriculum to be taking you through.
Good point.
So, he's not going to crank up a chainsaw and give it to an infant, spiritually speaking. He knows where each of us are, and he's able to take us through those circumstances and give us empowerment commensurate with our endeavor.
Thank you. Very nice point. Govinda? Time. Thank you. He's the timekeeper today. Thanks. Thank you very kindly for your extended attention, and please accept my respects. Vanchakalpa, Trubhyascha, Kripa, Sindhu,